I paid $4,150 for the foundation on this 2-story home addition. But this video is not just about that. In this one, I'm going to cover every single step that somebody needs to take to pass the forming inspection and get the approval from the city inspector to pour the concrete. That's the permit displayed for the public to see in case I have a nosy neighbor. Right over here is the table set up for the city inspector. I have the plans. Inside of this folder, I have my city permit. Behind it is the certificate signed by the epoxy inspector and the document signed by the structural engineer for the verification of the rebar. So if you have a setup like this at your property when you're building your project and the city inspector sees this, he's going to be super happy. We just passed the forming inspection. We are ready to schedule the appointment with the concrete company so they can pour the concrete and we can get the project going. I'm going to show you around the construction site and point out all the things that we had to do, so you can just take that as a reference when you're building your project. Don't take this as construction advice. I'm not a contractor, I'm a homeowner. If you guys need someone to help you draw the plans for your ADU, get in contact with Natalie. Natalie can help you draw the plans, submit them to the city, and get them approved. The best way to get in contact with Natalie is by going over to the website, submit an inquiry, and that's it. Natalie will take care of the rest. And by doing that, you will be executing step 1 towards building your ADU. I'm at the corner of the addition, and if you guys can see, I'll do my best to show you a good angle. The epoxy is installed right here. This is where the rebar was installed. We have 2 of those going in. This over here is a hold down. This is for earthquakes. This is called an anchor bolt, and this holds the foundation and the property together. The anchor bolts have to be installed 48 inches on center per plan. However, we have them installed every 32 inches on center. The reason why we chose to do that is just to add more and to show the city inspector that we're overdoing it. We are going beyond what the plans say. The city inspector didn't say anything. He was happy. If anybody is thinking about building a 2-story addition and you have a small balcony, you're going to spend just a little bit more money, and I'll tell you why. This is a hold down. This is 7/8. This is 5/8. It's about 27 inches long. It's holding the weight of the balcony compared to just this small one. But to give you an idea, on 2 of these anchor bolts and the hold downs, I probably spent about $200. So you can see the difference on how much more weight and how much powerful they are. This is an HD 11 and this is an HDU 4. This is for the balcony, and this is just for, for a regular wall that's gonna go right over here like that. And then this one is going right over here. Look at that. One of the things that's different from a 2-story addition is the footing. Altogether is a 40-inch footing. Above grade is going to be 12, and then the rest underground. And right away you can tell how big this footing is by how much lumber you have installed for the forms. I have a small stepping patio here, and they also have to pour a footing, and this is tiny compared to what we have right here. Another thing that the city inspector looked out for was the marked HDUs, which they're on yellow. He was happy about that. And the rebar is done properly. If you guys can see, there's rebar going all the way down. We have the anchor bolts, we have the hold downs, we have all those little things required to pass the inspection. The soil is caving in. A quick way to fix it was to add a drywall so the soil doesn't keep going to the footing. Another thing the city inspector is going to look for is to make sure that the dobbies are installed on the soil and then the rebar goes right on top like so. This is something very basic. Your contractor is going to know to have this, but just in case you don't see these with the rebar together, then something is very wrong and you should be worrying a lot if your contractor doesn't know to use these. That's kind of construction 101. This rebar is number 4, and the city inspector is going to look at all those things to make sure that whatever is on the plans are installed in your forms. This is a finished product. I went with 2 different styles. I have lime plaster on this side of the construction, and on the other I went with panels to give it a farm style look. I'm going to make an entire video about farm style because, long story short, it was more affordable than doing stucco, and it looks 10 times better, and everybody thinks it's super expensive, but in reality it's not. The idea that I get from some contractors is that pouring a foundation is extremely expensive, and after doing a lot of research, talking to companies in regards to pumps and the actual concrete itself, I noticed that it's not that expensive at all. If I were to do this with a big company, it would be super expensive, and I understand companies need to make money, they need to pay rent, pay employees, all that good stuff, but I'm doing this as an owner builder. All that liability is on me. If I make any mistakes, it's on me, and I'm willing to take on that risk. There's only one factor that makes pouring a foundation just a bit more expensive, and in the scheme of things, it's almost nothing. But let me break down the 2 types of concrete that anybody can use to pour a foundation. There's 2,500 psi, which is good for pathways and driveways, and in fact, my plans called out for 2,000 psi to be used on the foundation. After talking to another contractor that I know, Yoni, he mentioned that he was pouring 3,000 psi concrete on a small ADU, and I just asked him, why are you pouring concrete that's stronger? The difference between 2,500 psi and 3,000 psi, which is way stronger, is about $15 a yard, and that's it. So when I was calculating how much concrete I was going to need, it was a no-brainer to go with 3,000 psi and pay the additional $15 per yard to pour concrete. For the viewer that's doing something like this by themselves, I'm just gonna go over the steps that we need to take in order to have the approval to pour the concrete. My addition is attached to the existing property. So in order to join the new footing with the old footing, we have to install rebar and epoxy. And in order to do that, you will need a certified epoxy inspector to provide a certificate. We have that certificate. On top of that, we have structural engineering in our plans. So that means that the structural engineer had to stop by the property, inspect the rebar, and then provide us a certificate. So those are the 2 items that we need. Once we have those, we make an appointment with the city inspector. He stopped by the property, we gave them those 2 certificates, and he gave us the approval to pour the concrete. So this is just the basics of what I had to go through in order to get the okay to pour the concrete. In case someone has not seen my previous video, I'm just gonna cover the cost that I had to take in order to be here. On lumber, rebar, the removal of the soil, I spent $20,288. Let's get to the concrete. The cost to rent the pump was $450. I needed 10 yards of concrete. Each yard was $370. Overall, I spent $3,700 on the concrete and $450 on the pump, for a total of $4,150 to pour a foundation on a 2-story home addition. If I was to pour the same foundation, just to give you an idea, on a straight line, it would be about 80 feet by 40 inches deep. That's a massive foundation, but is what the plans were called for, and that's exactly what we did. I want to show you guys the finished product, just in case there's a contractor who has been in the business for 100 years and wants to comment that I didn't do it right. As you can see, I did it right as an owner builder with almost no mistakes. The bread and butter of a contractor is their list of subcontractors. I'm going to do something that contractors will never do, and that is I'm going to share the contact information for all the companies that I'm working with. So if you guys want somebody to pump your concrete, or if you want to buy concrete directly from the manufacturer, you can find all their information on my website. I'm making a list of all the people that I'm working with that anybody can use to build their ADU, home addition, new construction as an owner builder. Please don't call me, just go onto the website. All the information is going to be right there. That's it for this one. On the very next video, I'm going to be talking about the framing and a mistake that cost me $1,000. Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.